Welcome to Bunny's Designs. This is a live stream, live pupils, and also recorded for YouTube if Alfie doesn't ruin everything again. So I'm making my little sketchbook, my junk sketchbook. I don't know what else to call it. It's made from old wallpaper, paper lining, and a roll of craft paper. And it measures. It's rather small. It's the biggest cornflake box I could find, which is going to be 11.5 by 13.75, and that lends itself to pages of 11. I think these are 11 and by 13.25. So I've got a thicker paper lining, I've got brown paper, I've got some cheap children's drawing paper from IKEA. I think that's from the roll. That is really cheap and nasty. More sketchbook, different paper linings, different thicknesses, and I've variated it. This is really thin as well. So some's going to be tea dyed and some's going to have a copper kind of effect, like my one here, inspired by Jenny Belly. So this is tea stained, and it's because I want to get back to sketching again with my little pen, and I thought this would lend itself to some watercolours and sketching. And I have Moleskinas and all sorts of other sketchbooks, and I don't tend to use them, but I loved working in here, so I thought I'm going to use this. I've got 3 tubes of bronze, which is not quite the copper colour here, but it's still metallic, and it works lovely on brown paper. So that was my inspiration to make a sketchbook, a junk sketchbook. And of course, being homemade, I can make it any size I like. So I've got 7 signatures. So I poke the holes at the back, and I'm making mine the same way. I'm going to leave some string at the top, which is good because you can retighten it because it's very loose, because it's a big book, which is why I wanted to do the first page, to show you this is not easy. This is not doing a little book like I've done before. This is hard work, shall we say, but it's worth it. You're going to have a huge sketchbook. Oh yes, Suzanne, no disasters today. Suzanne dropped her hydrous inks, paint, watercolor paints all over her beautiful page when she'd finished it. So yes, keep the paints at one side and the book away from the other side, because that's probably a trick I would do. So I've tied a rubber band on the end, because that means that you don't pull it straight through, because there's a lot of pulling with this. So this is really loose. So I'll zoom in a smidgen if everybody can see what I'm doing. I've had to put the camera high up because this is, quite a huge book. So I've pinned it to hold the signatures together, and I've poked the holes through here, but they're not exactly in the centre. But again, that's not a big thing for me. So we've come through there. We're going back through here now. And they are on the edge, they just don't look. So I get just roughly here, and it's going to sit nicely here for the moment, because it's easy. And then we're going to go out of that one, and I do have my mat under here. Now if it's a smaller book, you can actually go through them both at the same time, and then I'm going to go down here into the next hole. So I've gone in, out and in. So you will see that it's missed. There isn't one there, so I've kind of gone in and out, and then I'm going to come up here. So it misses every other one, but then when you go back, you're doing a figure of 8 basically. But there's lots of wonderful tutorials out there. The lady called Sea Lemon is one of the ladies, and then Jenny Belly, I think she does this one. So I've come through this one and I'm going in number 3. And again, it's a lot easier if you hold your page. Oops, and it's gone in the wrong. It's gone in the wrong. It's because I've got a bit of a kink on the end of this. As long as it goes in at the right. And again, I'm not going to be too precious. It's a junk journal. One thing I am going to do though is going to put a little bit of sticky tape, because I'm working with thread, and just going to put the tiniest bit of tissue on there. Just bear with me 2 seconds, because I had a bit of a disaster with one of the dogs, and she bit through my nail and it's actually grown back on. So I can't be too ill because all my bite marks have completely disappeared within less than a week. Apart from that one, but the other bite mark's gone. So actually, sorry, I keep rabbit trail. I have to stop doing rabbit droppings. So that's almost tight. I can tighten that up and it's gone into its place. But as you're working, it will get looser. And I say it's a lot better now I've got rid of all that thread. So again, straight into there if you don't have a crooked needle. And if you were clever enough, you could go straight through the back there, like that. Oops. And then pick this out of there. So again, out, in, and through this one. And I don't think you'll get through both because it's, unless you've got them perfectly lined up. Oops, and I haven't. But if you go steady, again, you can tighten it up as you go along a little bit if you want. I don't tend to bother because it puts a lot of pressure on it, so I'll leave it just be loose, because you can tighten it up after. So I'm going to go in this one here. And that's probably the easiest way to do it, is to jiggle it a bit. Bless him. And I've got a bit of a knot in that one. But I do love this crocheted 100% cotton because it's very, very, very strong. And you do need a fair, you couldn't do this with embroidery thread, this would just disintegrate. So you could do it with string for a very rustic effect. You can do it with anything you want. But I would suggest the strongest, especially if you want to hang some beads on it as well. And again, it doesn't always behave itself, but just a gentle persuasion is the order of the day. Again, we're going back into this one. So I hope you can see what I'm doing. But I'm only going to do one because it's not boring, but okay, so if you just jiggle it, it finds its own natural way. And then we're going into this one. And through that one. do tend to oops. And it's a good idea not to have too big a holes, because that's another key, I think, is you want the hole to match the needle, and the smaller hole you can get to, the better. So I've got that down to here now. So what I can do, oopsie, is if you pull this way, you will break this. It's only paper. But if you pull long ways, it automatically... Oh, that was clever. It's not supposed to break. Oh well, never mind. Never mind. It's easily fixed. You take this section here and you take this, so it actually isn't as strong as it should be. But that's good because you can see what you do. So you take this and you knot it. And I can, it's because I pulled it that way, I should have pulled it a long ways. Just let me use the needle, because you want the knot to be as tight as possible, which is not going to be that tight because I haven't finished it yet. So this is how not to do it. And I'm a bit of a thingy, so I double knot it. Whoops, I double knot it. So I have a knot on here now. And what you can do is you can cut these off, and when you pull it through and tighten it, you can pull that through. In fact, I can do that. So it's quite strong as that. So I'm just going to cut a little bit off. So it's not the end of the world if you break your thread. And if you run out of thread, this is how you attach the next bit. So I can pull that through here now, carefully. I can't tie a knot at the moment. This is a disaster, isn't it? Don't know why this has happened. I didn't have any trouble with the first signature. But of course I wasn't on camera with the first signature. So you think that might be tight enough. It's just pulling out, that's why I don't know. I don't know why it's not tying in a knot. I can't tie a knot now. Okay, we'll do it this way then. Right, messing about. I do it this way. And then we'll do it this way. Normally works. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. But as I say, if you have a look at Sea Lemon, I'm going to do a few knots and then we'll see what happens. Right, so I'm not, right. So when I push this through here now, this knot is not going to go through, because it's quite a big knot. It's not going to go through, but that's okay, because it'll go to there. And if you pull it long ways, like this, it should be fine. It's because I pulled it the other way. So now I want to go back in there again. This is why you don't want to do this on camera. Because... Right, so... I mean, if it's quite loose, it doesn't matter that much. You see, what I do now is I pull this way. But I do them individually, so it doesn't put too much strain on it. But I don't want to do that yet because I'm still playing with this signature. So I'm going to go back into this one now. And if you jiggle it a bit, you normally come out in the same place. So going back in here, this is what we were before. Go into that one. Oopsie. And we'll try again. And we go back into that one. Mind your fingers, because if you stab your fingers with the nut, it's good to use a blunt one actually. It's perfectly okay to use a blunt as long as your holes are good, because then if you do stab yourself, you're not going to scream. So again, just a gentle pull, and then a gentle pull that way, and you will see. So I want to go back into this one now. And what you will see is that's now continued that loop. That's all one. And then when this goes outside here, hopefully, one thing you've got to remember is now never catch the other one. So again, that's continuous. There's a thread there. There isn't a thread there, there or there. So now I'm coming out of this hole. And now is the time just to gently pull it through. But I'll show you the trick I do at the end. Oopsie. So I want to go into that one. And if you can see, it's actually tightened up a little bit. So now it becomes a little bit trickier, because you've got to get into this hole again. This is why, you see, this is why sometimes you've just got to pull it out there like that. But you can't catch the other string. You cannot make sure this is loose. So I've got that little kink on there, so I can make sure that that's not caught. You can't catch it because you can't tighten it up if you catch it. And I say it's a bit fiddly. Right, so that's what I've got kind of two holes going in there. Now, if you're really clever, sometimes you can go through both holes at once. And it's a lot easier, especially when you've got it tighter. But I kind of tighten mine up at the end. So that's my knot, that's my... Oops. So I'm going to go in that one, see if I can actually go through. Yes, I can go through, right through the middle. So that's a lot easier. It depends how good you are with the holes. So if you can get through here. I don't want to touch that, because you can't tighten it. If you catch your thread, if you split your string, you can't tighten it up. So again, if I'm very lucky, and I know it looks like a lot of work, but this is never going to fall to bits. It's going to be, oops, quite strong. So I'm going back into this one, again trying not to catch. And if you look it, you can go, see I've caught that thread, you can see that I've caught the, so you've got to do a bit of jiggery pokery, as we say. Oops, not going through them all. Sometimes this isn't probably the best angle. You'll find your favourite angle. I've got this silly kink on the end of this needle, but this is the one that's going to be awkward, so I'm going to pull that through there like that. This is sometimes where a curved needle is quite good because you can get a really good angle. But I wanted to show it's not easy. This is not an easy thing to do. But it's a good skill. You can make it with small bits. I'm actually going to turn that. It's just been Mr. Awkward, this hole. Again, if I hadn't have made bigger holes, it would have been better. This is not going to go in there. It's actually not in the same hole, but I'm not bothered. It doesn't really matter. It's not that important. Just got to make sure. Let's see what was in there. Just got to make sure that you do not catch that one. So this is the last one now. So I've got, it's fairly tight here. You flip that over. It's going to sit there. So I've got quite a big gap between. So what we can do now is we can take the needle and we can pull this thread, and this is every other thread. So this is every other thread now is be pulled. It's a bit like your shoelaces when you do them the old-fashioned way. Every other thread, and then when you come backwards, again it's every other thread. So that looks fairly, you can just tack them. Want a little bit of give, not too tight, because, and then when you do that, you can see they're all sitting neat and tidy. So when you shut this, you can then tie this one to the top of this one. So you can get rid of your rubber band because it's done its trick. And it's stopped that going through. You can get that from your needle, and you can now tie off at the top here. And make sure your knot is sitting at the top. And you can do two things. You can poke it in if you don't want it on show, but if you're going to put a big bead or something on it, then it's going to be fine. I may not put anything on it. It depends, but it's got to be tight when you tie it. And that is now, oops, take this out. You can clip the outsides as well. They don't normally flap, it's just curled in. And that shouldn't collapse like that, but it won't do when it's full. So now that is my spine. And I have two signatures in there. And if you can see, they're quite tight. They don't want to be too tight, but they're in there. And that allows you to have every page completely flat. And that's why I've done it that way. So I can draw on this, and it's going to be Doesn't matter what signatures I'm in. It doesn't matter what signature I'm in. It's going to be flat. And all these pages are a little bit curled because they've been in a row. So you have to a little play with them. But once that's, I could actually put a clip on them if I really wanted to stop them flapping about. But I have two of these giant paper clips. That would be perfect. If I can find another one. Which now I've said it, I can't. I've got that one to just stop them flapping about. Ready to put the next signature in. So I've got 5 more to do. And then I can attach, just put my needle back. I can then attach, I'm going to go through it and pick the papers and colour them very much so that you would do a junk journal. So I'll pick the pages. I've got so many of these. I've got this paper clip, that will do, it's big enough. Again, I could probably leave that paper clip in there. I've never found a use for it. Perhaps this is going to be the use for it. And then I'm going to mend that, put some over here so that makes that taut. And then that's my junk sketchbook. And I'm also using 3 rolls of wallpaper as well. But I need to start using things. I've got lots of things that I need to start using. But if I make some of these books, I will get, although I'm going to buy another roll, the roll will, 2 rolls of wallpaper of a paper liner will make at least 2 books. And that will allow me to use up the big roll of brown paper, which we're not doing the paper liner, so that's something finished. Oh, golly gumdrops. Ah, I wondered why I couldn't see it. Try to look at the timing at the top. So that only took, yeah, it's going to be pretty big, but it's let me have a look at my Moleskine. Not sure where I've put my Moleskines now. Should be about. The Aviary is a large book. The Aviary is quite a large sketchbook. So it's the same width as the Aviary. So the Aviary would fit in it quite nicely. So it's the same width as the Aviary books. So if I was working in one of these, I could actually put it in here and take that with me if I really wanted to. If I was going away for a long weekend, I would probably do that. You could put your sketchbook in there and it would be safe. But I like the idea of being a bit freer with the sketchbooks. And I say there's something quite nice about your own. This one I've covered the copper. This is just brown paper crunched up. So I can pull the camera down a little bit now. I have to have a peg on there because it won't behave itself. No, that wasn't work. It's got to be, that one might do. Yikes. Oops. If I put that onto there, and then just, sorry about this, move the camera there. That's probably a little bit better. So this is again wallpaper, bits of paper, crepe paper. I was really just putting children's poster paints, tea dyeing, white paint, stamping. Again, this is cheap children's acrylics from the pound shop. Nothing very expensive. Just a real rough junk journal. Mainly just backgrounds. And I was doodling my design in it. Lots and lots of junk scribbles. Really very bad faces. Can't do faces like this. Again, that's the brown paper. These are crayons. I think I did this with crayons. This is a different wallpaper that I put in here as well. I drew these the other day when I was sat with Alfie to colour in. That's white acrylic, but it doesn't stick. I drew this when I was waiting for Alfie with a Sharpie. That's just a piece of photocopied paper. So again, making just backgrounds. Really, really rough. A lot of these pages I don't like. These are acrylic, so it's made them makes this wallpaper paper quite chunky. And again, there's a big gap because I think people want to stick things in. That's fine. It lays flat, so it's quite good. Gessoing some pages, really making some ugly backgrounds. But it's freeing. This is very freeing if you're... these are my... baby wipes. I've got some nice texture in them, colour in them. So I put those at the back because I was going to use those. I think one of the pages I have used them. Lots of these I don't like, but it was just good fun to play. I did this the other day and I really liked that when I was stroking Alfie after his accident and I couldn't do anything. I had to do everything one-handed. So I got the Sharpies out. And I like the fact it went through. So this kind of book is very freeing. This is quite a few years old now. And I was going through a I hate art. This is a paper towel. Sorry, not a paper towel, a baby wipe. And it's got some quite nice effects in it. A lot of these I don't like. I did this the other day actually. I quite liked playing in it again and covering up some things that I didn't like. But it was very freeing, I have to say. Again, this is a textured wallpaper, which I used for the back as well, and bronzed it up. So, but this is very freeing. This is the wallpaper as it is, just normally, and it's also got stains on it and tea stains and things. But this is all really those really children's acrylics. And poster paint, a bit of a tight Yorkshire lass. And then these were my, when you put these into your little books, it's too far away from to reach. You put them between your pages to do your edges. If you do small books, you end up with really unusual pages. And Jenny Belly, that was her idea, is to use these. And so I've just stuck them in with sellotape. But again, it's a background. And I never thought I would like anything like that, but they're kind of a little bit, they remind me of abandoned places. You know, the paper's walled, the paper's peeled off and you can see. That's what they remind me of. So they're very kind of rough and ready. Again, dark backgrounds. Don't know what planet I was on when I was doing this. And again, I've just stuck these in with sellotape. And you can stick things with sellotape. And there's some more here that I've been using. And they're not precious. And again, I think that's quite freeing because it's not precious. Probably only like one page in here. I like the little girls. I painted those. First time I'd painted for ages. And I like my little girls. And again, stamping. I haven't had the stamps out for years either. So it's quite freeing is making one of these junk journals. And again, I've left that so I can put the beads on it. But I thought if I put the beads on it as it is, it would drive me insane. And as you see, there's quite a lot of room in there. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6 signatures in that one. So that's quite a nice size, and that's the big conflict box. But I said my other one is huge, so that's what I intend to do. So I'm going to stop this video because as I'm only doing one page of this book. So in here is 2 signatures. And it's going to be a bit of a heavy book. I will weigh it when I've finished. So I've got 5 more to put in. And I haven't actually, you've got to pin them and get them right and get the next signature. I have to get all the pages right up into the corner. You get them right up into the corner and square before you pin them. And again, this side, you get these, because it's a big book, you get right up into that corner before you pin them. And so you know you've got a really good. And then what I do is, when I get them like this, I pick the side I want at the top. So the rough one I want at the bottom, and the one I cut I want at the top. And then I get it level with the others, so that it's not going to look odd. And then I slide it forward to the spine where it's going. Bye Dorothy, thank you for popping in. And so that's there, and then I hold it down, and then because it's hidden, I use a pen. It says she, so it's in the right place. It's all level. And then it wants just tucking into here. And then you need to be very precise. Because if you mess this bit up, your signatures won't be in the right place. They won't sit straight. So this is a very important bit. So that's why I do this last. I do each one individually, and I make sure, because some of these holes won't be in the same aligned, even though I've tried to put them aligned. So this way you know that every hole is going to be right for each signature. Because sometimes you turn your signatures over, and sometimes you turn them round, sometimes you put them in different order. So I do this one, this is done, these go away, and I will then put this one in here. And that makes sure that that signature matches those holes exactly. And so you can have a really, really nice straight edge. Otherwise there'll be skew width. So that's probably one of the most important bits, is to get that right. And then you have a big sketchbook from Recycled Materials. I'm not sure if I can hold it up because it is quite a big chunky book. So you've got a good 1/4 inch in between if you wanted to stick lots of things in here. as a junk journal, you could do that because you've got that gap in between. So you've got a lot of space in between. So I think it was 360 pages, but I've put some extra ones in. So I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 34, 36, 38, 40, 42, 44, and I have 46. No, I haven't. Silly girl. 2, 6, 8, 10, 10, 12, 14. I've got 16 sheets in each signature. So 16 sheets, it gives 32 pages, and each page is doubled. 32, so that's 64. So there's 64 actual pages in each signature, and I've got 7. That's 42, that's 46. There's got 468 pages in there. It's just short of 500 pages. And if I can stick them in, so there's just short of 500 pages. So that's pretty good sketchbook. Ow! Just got to remember not to pick it up like that. So that's going to keep me going a while. And I thought these pages would be really good for Art in the Abbey, though. There's going to be some really big, for practice, there's going to be some really good sized sketches in here. And if I muck it up, I can just cover it over and do another one. So that's my little sketchbook. So I found in here these gorgeous, they are fake bobbins. So I'm going to use the bobbins. I found some nice thread. So I'm going to make a couple of bookmarks. If I do them for my daughter, she likes to Scrabble, so I found these letters. And she likes plant pots, so I shall do the flower pots for hers. There's some other lettering I've got to stick on the front of hers. I might do hers a bit steampunk because she likes steampunk, so I can cover it with brown paper, and then do some lettering because she likes Scrabble as well. There's all sorts of things you can use. Mine's a bit damaged, so I'm going to cover it over with that. So I'm going to leave that out for mine because that's what I'm going to put on mine. But I'll finish that when I've put all the signatures in. And there's all sorts of other letterings. These are quite nice for if you want to put anything on here, like sketchbook or whatever. Oh, bye, little P. So I just thought I'd do a signature there, and little P's on in a minute, so everybody needs to go to Little Phantom, I think, on Ustream. So thank you for watching, and I hope you all have a pleasant afternoon. That's my little sketchbook. Thanks for watching.